Chapter 4. The worst fight of all. Helen didn't know that Annie had come to help her. All she knew was that a stranger was trying to make her do things she did not understand, things she did not want to do. So 6-year-old Helen did what she had been doing for all those years. She fought back. She ran, she hid, she fought with sly tricks. One day, Helen locked Annie in her room and hid the key. Helen's mother tried to get Helen to show where she had hidden the key. Helen just turned away and smiled. Finally, her father had to pull up a ladder to the window and carry Annie down like a sack of potatoes. But most of the time, Helen fought with her fists. Day by day, those fights grew worse. Helen was strong, but the stranger was stronger. Helen could fight for hours, but the stranger never seemed to tire. It's that little bit of strength that's going to save us, Annie Sullivan wrote a friend one day. If she doesn't kill us both first. Annie tried to keep cheerful. It was not always easy. One day, Helen's hand brushed against Annie's face and came away wet. Helen didn't know what tears meant, so she just turned away. Then came the worst fight of all. Helen had the table manners of a pig. She knew how to use her knife and fork and spoon, but she liked to use her hands instead. She began each meal in her own chair, but she never stayed there for long. Most of the time, she wandered from place to place, grabbing what she wanted from other people's plates. Annie watched with horror as Helen stuffed other people's food in her mouth. But Annie didn't say anything, so long as Helen stayed away from her. Then one morning, Helen stopped behind Annie's chair. Her nose wriggled to sort out the smells. What was on the stranger's plate? She sniffed again. Then she knew it was sausage, and Helen loved sausage. But did she dare? Helen stood there for a moment. Then she touched her way around the table again. At every chair she stopped and sniffed. Everyone else's sausage was gone. Now here she was back at the stranger's plate. Once more the delicious smell of sausage came drifting up to her. It was just too much. Out flashed Helen's hand. Down came the stranger's on top of it. Helen tried to jerk free. The stranger held on tight, and one by one she peeled Helen's fingers away from the sausage. Oh, let her have it just this once, Miss Keller said. She doesn't know any better. Annie shook her head. She must learn that other people have rights too, she said, and so the fight began. Helen kicked and screamed. She pounded her fist on the floor. Helen's mother and father hated seeing her so upset. They got up and left the room quickly. Annie locked the door behind them. Then she went back to her chair. For a while, Annie sat. Helen rolled and raged on the floor, but Helen was growing hungrier every minute. What was the stranger doing? Was there any sausage left on the plate? Finally, Helen got up to find out. She sniffed, and yes, there was some sausage left. Helen's hand crept forward. Annie pushed it back. Helen's hand crept forward again. Annie pushed it away again. Helen lost her temper. But this time she didn't yell and scream. She just pinched the stranger's arm as hard as she could. Annie slapped back hard. Helen shook herself. That hurt! But it didn't stop her. Helen pinched the stranger again. And once more Annie slapped Helen. Pinch, slap, pinch, slap. I can keep this up as long as you can, Annie Sullivan said. Suddenly Helen wheeled away. She touched her way around the table again, but all the chairs were empty. Everyone else was gone. Helen raced for the door. She tugged on it as hard as she could. It would not open. Then Helen knew. She was locked in with the stranger, and all the understanding arms were gone. Helen backed against the wall. She wanted to stay as far away from Annie as she could, but she was growing more and more hungry. Finally, Helen edged her way back to the table again and began to eat with her fingers. Annie sighed and put a spoon in Helen's hand. Helen held it for a moment, then she threw it as hard as she could across the room. Annie held out of her chair and dragged her across plumped her back and let her see again. Now you're going to eat that oatmeal. And he said, and with that spoon. Helen kicked, she screamed, she wriggled like an eel. But inch by inch, Annie saw him force the spoon up to Helen's mouth. She forced Helen to swallow one spoonful. And then another. And then Annie began to relax. Too soon, Helen jerked free. She threw the spoon at Annie. Annie ducked. And everything started all over again. By this time, Helen didn't fight so hard. She was so hungry and tired. This time when Annie let go, Helen kept right on eating until finally her bowl was empty and her breakfast was all gone. But so was the morning. The sun was high overhead when Annie finally unlocked the door. Smells of lunch filled the house. Annie led Helen outside to wander in the garden. Then she went to her room to think. Things could not go on this way much longer. Something would have to be done, fast. But what? Annie paced back and forth across the room. Slowly a plan began to form in her mind. But first she would have to talk to Helen's mother. It was not going to be easy to find the right words. Chapter 5. Water. Miss Kate, I want to take Helen away with me, Annie said. What? Gasped Mrs. Keller. I must teach Helen to mind me, Annie explained. But I can't do it here in this house. Every time I try, she turns to you and away from me. More and more she will think of me as the enemy. Then everything will be lost. Mrs. Keller didn't say no, but she didn't say yes either. Annie tried again. It will just be for a while, just until Helen learns that I am part of her life too. There's a little garden house near here, Mrs. Keller said slowly, but she still didn't say yes. Annie leaned forward. I know it is a gamble, she said softly. It is also our last chance. Last chance, Mrs. Keller sat very still for a moment. Then she nodded yes. So Helen and Annie went on to live in the little house on the other side of the garden. At first, Helen kicked and screamed and fought as hard as ever, but slowly there came change. Helen fought, but not as hard. And not as often. Sometimes she would even let the stranger hold her for a moment. Then one day, Helen did not fight at all. The first great step has been taken, Annie wrote to a friend. Helen has learned how to mind. But Helen didn't know what words were. Day after day, Annie spelled into Helen's hand. And Helen learned to make more and more shapes back. By the end of March, in less than 2 weeks, she could make 21 word shapes. Then the next day, she learned how to make 8 more. But she didn't know what they meant. It was just a game she liked to play with her hands. April 5th, 1887 began like any other day. After breakfast, Annie began to spell into Helen's hand. But Helen was restless this morning. The window was open and the smells of spring came pouring in. Besides, Helen was growing very tired of this game with no meaning. She tugged on Annie's skirt, then pointed to the window. Her meaning was very clear. Let's go out. At first, Annie tried to go on with the lesson, but Helen's face darkened. Her hands clenched into fists. She was holding her new doll in her lap. Now she picked it up and threw it as hard as she could, broke into many small pieces. Helen didn't care. She didn't love the doll anyway. She felt the stranger sweep up the pieces, and then the stranger handed her her hat. So Helen knew they were going outside after all. She skipped and danced by the stranger's side. No more lesson. She was getting her way. Or was she? Helen and Annie wandered into the garden for a while. Then they came to the old pump house. Helen liked to play in its cool dampness. She ran inside. In the middle of the floor stood a pump. Annie saw it and began to move its handle up and down. Soon a steady stream of water came pouring out of its spout. Then she took Helen's hands and held it on the floor. Water, she spelled into Helen's wet palm. At first, Helen pulled away, but then suddenly she stopped. A new light seemed to come to her face. Annie saw the look. W-A-T-E-R, she spelled quickly. W-A-T-E-R. Water, Helen began to spell back. And with each movement her face grew brighter. For suddenly she knew the shapes the stranger was making with her fingers did have meaning. Everything had a name. Everything in the whole world had a name, and she could learn them all. "Oh, yes, Helen," Annie whispered. "That's it." And she bent down to hug the shaking little girl. But Helen pulled away. She didn't have time for that now. She dropped to the ground and thumped on the heart. "Name it," she was demanding, still laughing and sobbing. Annie did. Annie paused for a moment. She fluttered all the word with her fingers. She nodded, then she whirled away again. In the next few minutes she learned 6 new words, and she knew what they meant. Then suddenly Helen stopped. She thumped herself across the head. Annie burst out laughing. "Yes, dear," she said, "there's a word for you, too." And she bent down and spelled Helen into the little girl's hand. Helen had a name at last. Now Helen reached out and patted Annie's arm. At first Annie thought she was saying thank you, but Helen wanted something more than that. She patted Annie's arm again. "Oh," said Annie, "so you wanted to know that too." And Annie spelled teacher into Helen's hand. A few minutes later, 2 new people came out of the pump house. The wild little girl was gone, and so was the stranger. Now Helen Keller and the teacher walked hand in hand. Chapter 6. So much to learn. Helen wanted to know the name for everything that she touched, and teacher gave them to her. Before the first day was over, Helen Keller learned how to make 30 word shapes. Before the first month was over, she knew how to spell 100 words. From early morning until late at night, Helen spelled the word she knew. She spelled until her eyelids drooped and her fingers could hardly make the shapes. "You should really slow down," a worried friend said, "or she will hurt her brain." Teacher just smiled. She knew that nothing could stop Helen now. By the middle of June, Helen knew more than 400 words. But there was one important word she did not know. Helen was 7 years old now. For more than 5 of those years, she had been blind and deaf. During those 5 years, she had forgotten how to laugh. One day, teacher came bursting into Helen's room. She was laughing as hard as she could. She grabbed Helen's hand and held it in her upturned lips. L-A-U-G-F, she spelled into Helen's hand. Teacher picked up Helen and swung her around. Hopped, they skipped, they jumped around the room. Helen didn't know it, but teacher was leading through the motions of happiness, and all while she spelled laugh. Now teacher began to tickle Helen. Helen smiled. Her smile grew wider. A chuckle escaped, and finally with a great whoop, she began to laugh. Helen's mother and father heard the noise coming from the room. They had come to the door to watch. Mrs. Keller leaned her head against her husband's shoulder. "Oh, Arthur," she whispered, "Helen's laughing. I never thought I'd hear that sound again." Soon Helen was ready to take her next big step forward. It was time, teacher said, for her to learn how to read. Teacher got out a big card. On the card were printed the 26 letters of the alphabet. Each letter stood from the background so that you could feel it. This is how the blind had learned to read, with their hands. Teacher took one of Helen's hands and put it on the letter A. At the time, she made the sign for the letter A into Helen's hand. At first, Helen frowned and looked puzzled. She understood what was happening in one hand, but what was happening in the other? Teacher didn't try to explain. She just moved Helen's finger on the next letter on the card. B, she spelled at the same time into Helen's other hand. Helen still didn't understand, but now she moved her own finger to the next raised shape on the card. C, teacher spelled quickly. Helen kept going. Teacher kept right up with her, and suddenly, between one letter and another, Helen stopped. She began to smile, for suddenly she understood. Before the day was over, Helen learned all the letters of the alphabet. She was ready to move on to words. That night, a tired but happy Annie Sullivan sat down and wrote a letter. "Something tells me," she wrote, "that I'm going to succeed beyond my wildest dreams." Helen and teacher did not spend all their time hunched over the alphabet sheets and word cards. A long-eared rabbit wriggling his nose, a smooth-shelled bug crawling across their palm, the smell of wild grapes, and the sweet tart taste of them too. There were so many other lessons to learn outside, lessons from life. Helen planted a seed in the newly plowed earth. A few days later, she felt the plant coming up from its place. She learned the names of the trees that grew on her father's land and how to tell them apart by touch. One day, Helen and Teacher were coming home from a walk. They stopped under a tree to rest. Would you like to climb the tree? Teacher asked. Helen nodded yes, so Teacher helped her up. Then Teacher had another idea. It's so cool here, she spelled. Why don't we eat lunch of the tree? I'll go back to the house and make some sandwiches. You wait for me there. Helen nodded happily. She thought it'd be fun to wait in the tree, but suddenly a change came over the day. The air grew cooler. All the heat seemed to be fading away. Helen frowned. The sun must be hiding behind a cloud, she thought. And what was that strange smell coming up from the ground? Helen took a deep sniff, then she knew. It was the smell that always came right before a big storm. The wind began to blow. Helen felt a thudding sound. This was thunder, but to Helen it seemed as if a giant were dropping something nearby heavy. It was coming closer and closer all the time. Teacher! 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 Helen's fingers fluttered frantically, but the wind only blew harder and nobody came. A branch broke over Helen's head. Twigs splattered down around her. Jump, Helen thought. What if she did? What if she went flying off into space? Would she crash to the ground? Helen decided to hang on. But her fingers were slipping. She could not hold on much longer. Then Helen felt the most wonderful thing in the world. Teacher's arms lifting her down from the tree. One day, Teacher put an egg into Helen's hand. Hold it carefully, she spelled. Helen was puzzled. She already knew what eggs were. She had 2 every morning for breakfast. What was so different about this one? Wait and see, Teacher spelled. The first thing Helen noticed was that the egg was very warm. Then it began to do something very strange. It began to quiver, to shake in her hand. Now she could feel something chipping against the inside of the eggshell. Something was alive in there. It was trying to get out. Helen's mouth opened to a silent oh of wonder as the eggshell began to crack. A few minutes later, a baby chick was born in her hand. But what about things Helen could not hold in her hand? What about things that were too big, or far away, or that happened long ago? How could she learn about them? Helen had to trust other people to tell her the color she would never see and the sound she would never hear. What about the ideas, thoughts, with no shapes at all? Helen remembered all about her life and the first time she understood an idea. One day, Teacher asked her a very hard question. Helen tried to think of an answer. She tried as hard as she could. Teacher leaned forward. She tapped Helen's forehead. T-H-I-N-K, she spelled at the same time, and suddenly Helen knew. That's what happened inside her head. She was thinking. Helen learned so many hard things that first time, but she didn't know they were hard. To 7-year-old Helen Keller, it was simply a magic time, a time when the world came to her life in her hand. Okay, that's the end. Tune in when I read chapters 7, 8, and 9. Goodbye.